Hi, I'm Kate Childs from FMCG Institute. Welcome to our series, Window on Notable Careers. I'm joined today by John O'Connell, Sales Director of Lindt, Australia and New Zealand, and one of our senior fellows of the FMCG Institute. John, also known as Jock by his friends and colleagues, is a widely respected senior commercial executive in FMCG. He's built an impressive career with sales roles in Cadbury and Nestle before joining Lindt 12 years ago as their sales director. He's earned the right to be called an industry elder, but he's obviously far too young for such an honorarium. So welcome, John. Thank you for joining me.
Great, thanks, Kate. Nice intro, and I'm not too old.
Well, that's why I said you're obviously too young for such an honorarium.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's only a brief introduction to you. So is there anything you'd like to add? What have I missed there?
Not too much. I mean, obviously, it looks like I'm a chocoholic on my CV. Cadbury, Nestle, and then Lindt. But within all those roles, I worked in other areas of the business. So, as an example, in Cadbury, I was actually in the Sweps division at the time. But I started my journey in sales selling orange juice out of the back of a juice truck. So that's where I got the buzz of selling, and I knew from then on that was what I wanted to do. So then I set off on a journey from there to, I suppose, get where I am today, some 20-something years later.
Okay, well, let's dive into the questions. Which of your early roles, mentors, or training do you think contributed to developing your career to this point?
Well, there's been many along the journey, but I think the first thing that comes to mind is my sales repping days back at Sweps. You know, when I was out there by myself, driving the car around and, you know, calling on stores and competing with, you know, the likes of Coke and other big brands, Pepsi at the time, and fighting for my way of, you know, getting an extra facing on the shelf or an extra display on the floor. And that experience now, you know, I've taken all the way through. I know how it works at store level, so I can appreciate what I'm directing my team to do and how hard it is to get those over and above displays, or how hard they work from, you know, early in the morning to late at night. But the passion that always goes with it was always my driver as well. I see that in a lot of the people I now deal with, and my team accordingly. That's an important thing for me too, is to work for someone you like. You know, that's what I suppose, you know, fairly early on in my journey, I realised I was a lot more motivated if I was working for somebody I liked. And so I suppose in my interview processes over the years, that was one of my highest criteria is, yes, the job or the company, but also the person who I was going to be reporting to was, you know, pretty high on my criteria of, I wanted to work for someone who I liked, firstly, but someone who I could learn from and, as you say, mentor me on my next part of my journey through my career.
The relationship side of things is definitely an important aspect.
Yeah, well, you know, relationship internally and externally in sales particularly, but yeah, definitely the relationship has to be there with the respect and, you know, the mutual understanding of each other, because we're all different. So different styles of doing things, or you know, different ways of approaching things is also probably been an important part of my career as well. You know, I like to do things the way I like to do things, if you like. It doesn't mean they're right or wrong. They're just different ways, maybe to my boss or others at the time. And if they're accepting to open their mind about, you know, as long as you're getting the job done within some boundaries, well, and it's worked, and thankfully most of the time it has, we've achieved a lot together, if you like.
Well, I mean, you've mentioned some things there about, you know, having the right mentors in place and the relationships and liking who you're going to be working with. What has been the biggest epiphany you've in your career that has shaped your approach to the roles you've had?
That's a hard one. I don't know whether there's any one thing. I think what I've always stayed true to is following my own path of what I want to do and carving out, working hard to get there. Never easy, but knock on a lot of doors, do a lot of hard work, and hopefully get a lot of good results along the way to get you to that next level, to shape where your career ended up. There's no way I would have thought 20 years ago I'd be the sales director of Lindt, but on that journey, that's how I got here. I love it.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's the old saying that, do something you love and you'll never work a day in your life. That sort of old adage. Well, looking at your career in total to this point, what would you count as your proudest achievement?
Okay, well, probably getting my first job when I got the Schweppes company car. I thought that was pretty fantastic. But no, look, I had 10 years with Nestle with 5 different jobs, and so many good achievements during that time. I was working in the ice cream business, and we sort of went from a number 2 player to a number 1 player against Streets at the time, which was a massive achievement. We won Supplier of the Year with Nestle so many times in the ice cream division. But then equally, at Lindt, there's been a long journey of, successes. We've grown the business almost $100 million in 11 years. And obviously that's a lot of chocolate growth over those years, and, launched so many good products and had, really great relationships with customers, and did some fantastic initiatives along the way to achieve what we've achieved in this business over that time. So, never a dull moment. And, I'm still here today, absolutely motivated, can't wait to get to work every day and do it all again.
You mentioned some of the success you've had over the last 12 years building Lindt. What do you think some of the critical factors were, or some of the major steps in that?
Yeah, I think, I suppose when I joined Lindt, it was a smaller business, if you like. And the first thing was to start thinking big and thinking how far we can take it. So, and with that became, what other products do we need to launch? What's the structure of the team that we had to put in place? What are the systems and processes we had to put in place to be able to manage, the growth that we wanted to achieve? So, we eventually moved out of a small office in the city and built a massive warehouse out the west of Sydney, and a production site and a packing centre and an office and a warehouse. So, it's built up over the years. But the success factor, if you want to nail it down to one thing, would just be the partnership with customers. Very strong partnerships and alignment with customers over the years that has helped us, and they've helped us on that journey to get where we are today. So
switching gears here, what do you see as the most critical success factor for companies in FMCG in 2020 and beyond?
Yeah, that's the golden question, isn't it? I think adaptability, first thing, is we've got to adapt to the changes of the customer as they change, and they change direction or focus or priorities. The consumer's changing faster than what they want and how they buy things, and convenience and health, all this sort of thing. So I think it's just adaptability along the way, that you've got to keep listening to your customers, but also be very conscious of your consumer and how you keep appealing to them. So simply adaptability. Have the time to think about your business, talk about your business internally. Everyone's so busy these days. It's easy just to come in, sit down, plough through your work, meeting to meeting, get up and go home, and that's your day. But you've really got to set some time apart to have some headspace to start to think about what does next year look like, or the year after, or what are the processes or people or structure changes we have to anticipate, or the channels we need to go in, the customers we've got to look after, or most importantly look after the customers you've got. So if they're changing, how do we change accordingly? So that would be it.
It's definitely a very rapidly changing and evolving industry, isn't it, at the moment?
Yeah, that's why it's always exciting. You know, I think I never thought I'd be at Lindt for 12 years. I thought maybe, 3, 4 or 5, but because there's so much happening all the time, every year is so different, and the customers and the consumers and the products are different. So that's the exciting thing about FMCG, really, that I suppose a lot of people in other industries might not see as much as we do, how much it changes. So
yeah, I mean, there's a fashion more now to go for people, graduates, to want to work for Google or the next.com or a startup, and they may not realize that a lot of FMCG companies are really exciting. It's an exciting industry.
Yeah, I think it's one of those industries that young people don't even know about. You don't really learn about, the food industry at uni or school, if you like, but everyone knows Google and Apple and all those companies. And obviously they'd be great companies to work for, but I promise you, Lindt's a great company to work for, and there's plenty, Nestle have been, Cadbury have been, and others as well. So there's a real career and excitement in, the food industry.
Well, John, there'd be a lot of younger people looking at you and thinking, you're a success story, you're a sales director of Lindt, you've had a great career, and they'd be looking at you wondering, well, how do I get there? How do I achieve that and build a career? So do you have any, I guess the question is, do you have any advice for younger executives on how to manage their careers in the industry?
Yeah, well, firstly, you've got to want to do it. So you've got to have that passion to sell or succeed or to get to that level. And not everyone does, and that's okay. Everyone's got their own level that they want to get to. So, but from my experience, what's helped me the most is to do as many different jobs early on in your career as you can. So whether it's with the same company, working, a sales rep role, to a junior account management role, to a category role, marketing, finance, even supply chain, a VRP, ISP role with a customer is a great experience. So move around as much as you can, even if it's a sideways move or sometimes maybe even a downward move, if you like, to get the experience. Because when I look at a CV now of anyone coming in, I like to see they've had a lot of experience. Now, not experience over 3 months and another 6 months here. It's a genuine year in that role or 2 years in that role. Just be patient. That's the other message. Time will come, but just do your time and but think about where you want to be. What's all the experience? If I end up being a sales director, what do I need to know about? I need to know about category. I need to know about what it's like in the field team as a merchandiser or a rep, or maybe even marketing or supply chain, as I mentioned. So the more understanding you've got of the whole business at my level is going to help you get to my level, if you like. When I'm asking for the job, of a similar level to a CEO of another company, he wants to see my experience of all those levels, and have I managed at all those levels? Have I managed people? Have I managed difficult customers? How many customers have you managed? Because if you've been a great customer manager of only one customer, then that's great, but you haven't had much experience. So try and move around as much as you can.
Okay, well, I think that's great advice, and probably a good note to conclude on. So once again, John, thank you very much for joining me.
Great, thanks for having me, and good luck to everyone. Hopefully I'll see you in the Lindt boardroom one day.